Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
There you go.
That's the way he always talks.
Or the city critics, and
Okay,
I'm all for it.
there we go. So we need to put in gallery view.
There you go.
All right, does that mean so we're recording, live recording
It says.
on YouTube? Yep, okay, good to go. Good. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the City of Kingston's Common Council Finance Committee to order here at 6:38 on September the 14th, 2022. As always, we will start with our Comptroller's update, but I'll alert you, we're going to move something from the lower end of the agenda to the upper end. We've got some guests, we're going to be discussing one of the issues here, and so we'd like for them to be able to get home and do things. Yeah, unlike us, we don't do things. We just sit here. And, yeah, thank you.
Pass it around, you sir.
No, yeah, thank you.
I didn't.
Yeah, they want to get heard into an airplane.
Sure.
No, you keep it.
Yeah, it's coming around.
You just encouraged me. Oh, wait, see that?
All right, where are we at, John?
Okay,
Can we spend anything?
well, let's see what I got through here. Take a few decisions here. So I'm giving you an update through our figures through July. As I've reported in prior months, we're continuing to see pressure on the spending side. Inflation is slow the last 2 months, but we are seeing a lot of categories that we are getting close to fully spent for those categories for the year, or at least significantly over where we normally would be this time of the year. As a whole, we are 52.6% spent of our modified budget through July. Last year, for comparison, we were 49% spent, so 3.6% difference. About half of that, a little more than half that, is due to some of the transfers that we've approved proactively to spend down some of the fund balance. The rest of that is just because we are spending at a faster clip than we were last year. With the rising prices and costs that we're faced with. Most of the categories that were positive on my last report continue to be positive. On the flip side, some of the pressure categories, they're pushing much closer to fully spent. Overtime pay is 78% spent for the year. Offsetting that is a regular pay because of vacancies, only 53% spent. Electricity, we're 61% spent. Vehicle fuel, we're at 94% spent for the year. Some of these other categories, I won't go through them all, but we're certainly seeing that the spending levels are tighter this year than they were last year. And I think that's for obvious reasons. They just explain with inflation, rising prices, et cetera. On the revenue side, there's not a lot new there. We are continuing to collect sales tax at a healthy clip. As of right now, we are $952,000 over last year, which is a 9.19% increase over prior year. I think it's too early to give you a projection as to where I think we're going to finish, but you have that sheet. If we were to continue to collect sales tax at the same rate we were last year, which is probably a conservative estimate, we would finish at 18.7 million, and our budget was 16.25 million. So there's definitely a positive news there. Some other significant revenue categories, we are very positive. Gross receipts tax is positive. Mortgage recording tax, percentage of every mortgage recorded in Ulster County. We had a $585,000 budget for this year. I am estimating, based on the information I have from the county, that number will be in excess of $850,000, is very much approach $1 million. That's because that's a percentage of mortgages, so the rising housing prices has contributed to that, so. I know there's the other side of the coin, but that's on the revenue side for the city budget. Parking violation revenue is healthy, building permit fees are in line with where they typically were. On the investment side, and on the other update side, you'll see the investment rates are picking up quite a bit now. Our investment account balances are now earning at a rate over 2%. Back at the beginning of the year, we were under 0.5%, so that's rising rapidly. You hear the news on the mortgage rates, this is the offset on the investment side. So current contingency balance, $285,000. That is pending anything that we pass through tonight. And there's no change in the unsigned fund balance. We will have our audit complete by the end of this month, and I can give you an update as to whether or not that number changes on audit. Nothing that I have right now.
John, off the top of your head, do you have a sense of what the total actual dollars of fuel cost has been so far?
I could pull it up.
Because I mean, we're looking at spending not probably 93% for the rest of the year, but it's definitely a lot higher.
It is, it's not, when I say it's not a huge budget category, it's not a huge budget category, it's.
But we are going to have people coming to us.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, you're going to see 100%, yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, you're going to see budget transfers for overtime, for utilities, for vehicle fuel. I would expect those transfers from now until we close out the end of the year. You'll probably see transfers pulling money from some of these positive lines, regular pay, where these departments have vacancies, and other savings. So just to give you an idea, for the general fund for vehicle fuel, we have spent $243,000 of the $259,000 budget. So the total budget is $250,000, which, in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty small percentage of our budget, but still, it's, it's real dollars. But, we're on pace now to, well exceed that.
Yeah, I just want folks to be aware of some of these things. We're gonna have to be lenient when department heads come to us asking for these things, just knowing that no one predicted these high prices for gas.
Yeah, and I think you also see natural gas. I think you're going to see just general supplies, materials, contracted services, all those categories are going to have a lot of pressure on them. Almost everything now that we're getting quotes for any type of good is higher if we already have a lot in price. So.
Okay, any questions for John? No?
No.
All right. Thanks, John. So.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Dan, we're going to move up the two items that you're talking about here.
Okay.
So if you'll tell us what these are about and who's telling us.
Okay. Well, I submitted the communications on behalf of our two groups. The city of Kingston is applying on behalf of the Center for Paving Woodstock, and Nadine is here representing that organization. The applications are to the Empire State Development Agency, and it's for Restore New York, which is, there are 2 rounds this year. The first round is due in October. So I'm not sure if that's the first one you want to start with.
Yeah, number 20. So folks who are storing this at home, we're at item number 20 on new business. Restore New York Community Grant.
Nadine, would you like to describe the project a little bit? Just a brief description, and then if you have questions, we can
First, we are thrilled to be here in Kingston. We opened our doors in the spring and they welcome us. So we're very excited. So we have a new sign, drive home, CPW, so you'll know where we are. This building is at 25 Dedrick Street, which is right close to Grand and Broadway, where there's already going to be a grant application to upgrade the streetscape there. And it's a grant for $2 million to help us rehab this building. It's the old N&S supply building. You probably got your on the stuff there. So we are very excited about it. We're in contract. We go to sale in probably early February, and we should know by then whether this grant comes back. So this grant would enable us to do the first phase of our renovation, which would get us into the first 2 floors of the building. The whole project, we're expecting will probably be a $10 million to $12 million project, but obviously that's going to take a little time to raise this.
The purpose is the ground floor will be the museum itself.
Yes, sorry. So it, CPW is a combination of a museum and an educational space. So we will have exhibition spaces, but we will also be doing a lot of workshops and classes and lectures. And we are contemplating having the top floor, making it a mixed use type of situation, where perhaps we have artist spaces, studios that are in big demand now in Kingston, and perhaps also art storage on the 3rd floor, which is also a big demand in the region. So.
Yeah, I know my kids produce a lot of artwork and that's kind of place to put it. All right, but the key thing for us is that the estimated financial impact to the city is $0. I just want to emphasize that. This is, again, the kind of passive grant, all right? So any questions for Nadine or Dan? Questions? Michelle Hirsch?
Hi, good evening. Thanks for coming. So the museum where it is currently located on Broadway will then be moving
Yes.
when this is completed? Okay. And what do you expect that timeline to be?
We're hoping, that maybe we could get it done in a year. So from a year of hearing from the grant, which will be in January, so maybe we'd be in at the end of 2023 or early 2024. But this is a weird world as far as construction goes. So we are aware of that. Our lease is a 3-year lease and it started this year, so we have ample time to stay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Anything else to say?
No, it's just our request is for a resolution permitting us to apply for the grant on behalf of the Center for Photography. I should mention that for this program, the funder requires that a municipality or a county submit the application. So that's why we're doing this for the photography.
Okay, great. I do have a motion to discuss. Second. Any discussion?
I have a question. I had printed out some of the Restore New York paperwork on the grant. And it says that we have to have a public hearing as well for submitting.
We do. We are in the process of organizing that. It does not have to be before the full legislative body, so we're trying to find an appropriate time within the next few weeks to conduct that. And it has to be advertised in the Freeman, I think, for 3 days prior. So that will be announced shortly.
Yeah, make sure you put it in like 20 days before. Then make it in like 3 days. All right. I think people are just so excited they don't have any questions or any discussion. Am I right?
More art, like the 0.
Like the 0. Okay. Yeah, good on that. That's
It'll be a positive impact. Jobs and educational programs, and people.
And Woodstock's coming to Kingston. Hey, everybody bad about that.
Might have to change our.
All right. So if there's no more discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Good, thank you. Thank you, Nadine,
Thank you.
and welcome.
Um,
And then the second one.
Second one, Ulster County is applying on behalf of MHB Development for the Barrel Factory project. And Michael Darcy is here from the county, and Michael, do you want to kick off?
Sure. I think you have some information in front of you. This is Dan. He's part of the development team at MHB, and he brought some things to share with you folks and to talk a little bit about this project.
I have a couple pictures of the existing building just for reference. There's a 120-year-old barrel factory. This is off Cornell across across from the post office. The old, connected to the FMK building, if that is a good reference to it. We building has pretty cool history and backstory, so we went to get under contract to land and look into it. We met with a lot of different groups, the Midtown Arts District, the Midtown Business Alliance, some people at the town, and kind of came up with a plan that we think would help to advance some initiatives. So the top floor is going to be also art studio, live work kind of, just places for artists, and the bottom floor is commercial flex industrial workspace with some additional amenities, a rendering of what it will look like at the end as well, which I like Julie's.
Can you just say where it is again? I missed the.
It's on Cornell and Broome is the street, and right on the railroad over there. So crossing the post office, caddy corner from the shirt factory.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is the technical address 104 Smith?
104 Smith is the FNK building, and they're connected. So the parcel, to look it up on Google, it's easiest to do 104 Smith, but 35 Broome is actually the building over there.
So this is also a part of the Restore New York program. The complication we have with so many awesome projects that are in development in the county is that only the municipality can only submit for one of those. So we're finding a way to do two projects here in the city of Kingston. This project brings along with it maker space, everything that we talk about for economic development in the city. And they have full county support from Tim to the county exec. So your job is the same ask as what we're asking. There has to be a second resolution passed by the city of Kingston. And we have that as well. That's ready to go. There has to be a public hearing as well as a publication of the process. The same thing applies to both projects.
And this resolution is the city of Kingston endorsing Ulster County's application of that application.
That's correct.
Jill Hirsch?
Hi, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry, I don't know if I maybe just didn't hear it, but what is MHV?
We're a private developer, mainly focus on adaptive reuse, but build housing and mixed use developments. Yeah.
So have you done any in Kingston or Ulster County yet? Or what other ones?
It's a newer entity. We've done some big projects in Fishkill and New Windsor, but nothing in Kingston yet.
Okay, and the projects in those places, they're finished and up or you're in the process of working on them?
They're at our former company. We branched off and are doing our own projects now, but they've been completed for a while now.
Okay. And what is the name of the former company?
AVR Realty.
What, sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't hear.
Adam, Victor, Robert.
Okay, thank you.
High school. All right. Any other questions? In that case, do we have a motion to discuss? Michael Vieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Any discussion? Zero impact. All right. By hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote then. All in favor? Aye. All right. Anyone opposed? Excellent. I think.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
But you know, the exciting part hasn't happened yet.
What is the exciting part? Sign
It's
you on
at the
that.
very end.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me deliver.
That was 2021.
Yeah.
Now we're going back to the sun.
Now we'll go back. Yeah. And I'm going to take- All right, next item, we're going back to our regularly scheduled agenda. And this is Kingston Point Park Improvements Phase 2. Julie Noble is with us, I do believe. Hello, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you tonight?
Great, thanks.
Thank you, Garrett. What have we got? We have a bunch of blank paper. Hold on a second, sorry. There we go. All right. So this is more of the Kingston Point Park Improvement Phase 2 project. Can you give us the details there, Julie?
Sure. So Kingston Point Park, we have divided funding into two different phases. Phase 1 was funded by the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. It has just been completed. Phase 1 was adding a 50-car parking space lot that was elevated, a new U12 soccer field that was elevated, and a brand new playground, which we just cut the ribbon for just last week. So everything north of Delaware Avenue is complete, and that funding source is now being closed out. We got reserve funding to match that project. So that was all what we considered phase 1. We applied to New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program for phase 2, which is now renovate improvements of things south of Delaware Avenue. So this phase 2 will have 3 components. It will be taking the existing parking lot, which is by the BMX track and the softball field. Half of it is underwater all the time, and the other half is underwater some of the time. The part that is underwater all the time, we are going to be formally making into a wetland. So it will be acknowledged as and facilitated into an actual wetland that it is now designated and is transforming by itself. That will be the side over by BMX. The parking lot section by the softball field is going to be elevated and maintained as a parking lot. So that will then go from the 100-car parking lot that once was to a 50-car lot. We'll still be maintaining the 100 spots total with the 2 different spaces with the new lot that we have and this new elevated lot. So the wetland is component 1. The elevation of that half of the parking lot is component 2. And the third component is formalizing connections on the Empire State Trail. So the Empire State Trail comes in through Rotary Park and makes its way up to North Street, but it's not really intuitive or safe to do that. There's not a designated space. So we will be adding park sidewalks along a section of Delaware Avenue to connect from Rotary at least up until the beach parking, the beach sidewalk roadway rather, and then either connecting formally that North Street Trail connector through the park or continuing the sidewalk all the way along Delaware till we get to North Street. We have received this funding through the New York State Department of State. They have awarded us $654,500. And we are required to put in a match, of which the match is $115,500. Of that match, approximately $15,000 of it is expected to be in-kind staff time. That staff time would be mine as the project manager, some of Department of Public Works time, some of the engineers' time, some of Ruth Ann's time, and then some, depending on what we do with construction, if any construction is done in-house at all, which I don't anticipate it to be, but if there is any, then that would count as staff time. So $15,000 of staff time, which leaves a remaining $100,000 that I am requesting a bond ordinance tonight to cover the difference. In terms of the timeline, we are only just in the last week now in contract with the state. It has taken a while for the state to get into contract. We had our contract meeting yesterday. Ruth Ann and I and a representative from DOS. And so this will be likely a 2-year project. It will start now. It starts now with design and permitting, which will take place through this fall, the winter and the spring of next year. We will go out to bid for a design firm to design all 3 components. And then we will go through, once we have permitting and the secret process is complete, we will go through construction, which will likely happen in either late 2023 or certainly in 2024. And so again, the request is for $100,000 through a bond ordinance. to serve as the match that is not covered by staff time.
Great. So the new parking area, it'll still be adjacent to all the ball fields and stuff. People won't be having to be walking much further than the current parking lot, right?
Yes, so the existing parking lot that is already there, the half of it that's close to softball is just going to be elevated. So we'll be in the exact same space. The
Okay.
other end, that's the really wet end, where we blocked it off with the boulders by BMX, that's going to be made into a wetland. But our intent is to build a culvert and a elevated driveway at that end so that BMX can continue to have access. If we don't go that way with the access for BMX, we may go around. Either way, there's a lot that still needs to be determined, like whether or not the asphalt would need to be removed or whether we would continue to let it transition as it is naturally. All that will be determined by the Department of Environmental Conservation. It's proximate to the landfill that is existent there, so we have to have an understanding of what that relationship will be with the landfill. But we will be putting in signage and boardwalks around the wetland and new lighting, and then the improved parking lot and the pathways.
Okay. Questions for Julie Noble? Barbara, and then Steve?
Hi Julie, Barbara here. Did I, as you were describing it, did I hear you say, was there an and or, like, in terms of the sidewalks, you know, getting, following the Empire Trail, you know, like if I park at Kingston Point, which you're instructed to do, and not park on North Street. Right now you have to go through the field alongside that fence.
Yep.
And it's a little unstable because I did fall down once. Sorry, old and unstable, but it's confusing. And so is it an optional thing? Like you're waiting for the design team to decide if the sidewalks will go on Delaware up to North? Like it sounded like an optional thing, whereas if there's not a paved situation that goes through that field and two, you know, with easy access, and didn't the city own that at some point? That's a whole other story, but in terms of that access and what happened to that. But let's stay on the point of, will there be sidewalks along Delaware and clearly marked to get through to that wonderful trail?
So the short answer is that answer will come out in the design. The longer answer is that in the proposal, this was the proposal that was awarded. The current sidewalk goes from the Rotary Park gates to the Beach Road entrance. And then a paved pathway would go across that large field with appropriate signage to get you to that connector trail. This project can't build on private property, and the connector trail is mostly on Hutton Brickyard's property. So that is one option that is currently the way that this project is designed. However, if we determine that that is not the optimal solution and we want to use that field for something else or don't want to put a path through it or whatever, then it could be the case that the sidewalk would then stay on Delaware and go from the Rotary Park gate entrance along Delaware, past the Beach Road, up to North Street. I just want to be clear, though, it does not include anything on North Street. I know that we have gotten requests from constituents to put sidewalks on North Street. This does not include that. If people are interested in doing that, that would have to be additional funding from some other source. But the basis of this is that we're not going to know until design, when we meet with DEC and meet with Department of State and the engineer and DPW and everyone else to determine where that sidewalk is going to go. But either way, there will be either a sidewalk on Delaware or a paved connection to that connector trail from the new parking lot.
Okay, is there any way, you know,
if you want to advocate
along the way, so to speak, or like, will we see the design and then be able to, will there be public input into?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
And the design phase is going to be multiple months. I'm sure what we'll end up doing, what we did for the first phase is 3 alternatives. I'm sure we will do some amount of alternatives and then we'll go to folks for input. I'm going to be forming the project advisory committee in the next month, and I likely will ask a member of the council to be part of that, likely Alderman Shabbat, as that's Alderman Shabbit's ward, but anyone who wants to be part of the project advisory committee certainly can be part of that.
Thank you.
Steve, Jack?
Yeah,
Sorry, you're done, Mark?
I said thank you.
Okay.
Salute.
okay. All right, thanks, Julie. This is just more of a comment than anything. I really don't have any questions. I mean, as you are well aware, I'm sure, since my long tenure with the commission and as an alderman, that parking lot ranks up there with the best of it as far as complaints that I've received.
Yeah.
You know, it's a place that is going to be well used. People use it now, even in the water. So this is going to be a great relief, and, you know, people are going to be really happy to see this done.
Great.
So,
Yeah.
thank
I thought it was a long shot to get funding from the state, but I was pleasantly surprised when they awarded us nearly $700,000 to do it. So I'm excited.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
go for it.
Any other questions? Hearing no other questions, then, motion to discuss?
Motion.
Second by Michelle Hirsch. Any discussion? Michelle Hirsch?
I just want to say that I'm fully in favor of this project and moving forward with the funding. I think it's great that we are working with nature and not trying to work against it, and we're adapting so that we can all like peacefully coexist down there. It's a really important area for Kingston, and I'm happy to see this happening. So thank you for all your work, Julie.
You're welcome.
Probably beats my idea of swan boats putting in there. It makes money. Any other discussion?
No idea what he's saying.
You don't need to hear it. No, good enough. Any other discussions? In that case, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Resolution passes unanimously.
Thank you,
Julie.
everyone.
See what you're doing with that. Looks great.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
All right, and if anybody wants to see, if you're not clear on what we're talking about, go to Google Maps and look up Rotary Park, and you will see it's underwater.
You'll see a reflection of the sky.
I was just down there trying to, it's disgusting.
All right, now, most of these items that are coming up are budget transfers at zero. And there's no, oh, this is a committee report. Dang,
You do have a couple, you're going in order, right?
yeah.
Okay.
This committee report's ancient.
I think there are new ones in there. I can't look up. Do you need new committee reports?
No, the committee report's right. I mean, I'm sure that the numbers above are right. It's just that Doug Coop is listed as the chairman. No, but that's weird. Michael Livieri is listed on here at 47.
I know it well.
All right.
It's the Google map. Oh, is there really?
That's been a revolution I didn't know about. All right. So let's see. So this is, are we sure this is actually right? Sludgy grit, yeah, that must be wastewater treatment. Okay. So is there any discussion, or rather, is there a motion to discuss this resolution? Michael Livieri, second. Do we have a second to discuss? Thank you.
Oh,
Barbara Hill.
Asleep.
asleep over here.
Just sleep.
All right. Any discussion?
Euro transfer.
Yeah, movements within the budget, within their budget here. All right, in that case, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Good. Item number 4 is in the Office of Community Development. Again, zero transfer, zero impact. Do we have a motion to discuss?
Motion.
By Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. We've been reading these. This is a description transfer to cover costs of computer monitor to replace current data processing equipment that is more than 10 years old. And in this day and age, that's older than my dog.
Older than your toe.
My dog. Yes. Next is a budget transfer in Department of Public Works. This person is in the sewer fund. Internal transfer is for accounts detailed to cover shortfall in accounts. Do you have a motion to discuss?
Motion.
Steve Shabbat, motion, seconded by Michael Olivieri. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Go. The second one is in the general fund. Description, internal transfer of $97,225. That's for attached. Transfers to cover shortfalls in accounts, as well as putting funds from insurance recovery revenue and vehicle equipment auction revenue into the operating account. Estimated financial impact is zero. Do you have a motion to discuss? Michael Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, and I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Seven here, this is a budget transfer and parks, wait, why don't I have a third thing?
No, you know what, there's two copies in there of number 5 and number 6. There
Okay,
should just be 2 transfers from DPW. It was the ones I called.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's only just 5, basically.
no, there's two versions of number 5, and there's 2 versions of number 6.
Oh, so it's.
Yeah, the
double.
when you say 2 versions, you mean 2 copies?
two copies, right?
Right.
$24,000 transfer is in there twice,
Right.
and a $97,225 transfer is in there twice. They are the same thing.
Is that right?
They're duplicates, yeah. And then for Lindsay's transfer, I printed out, when you printed out the attachment, it didn't really fully print out. That's really what it was.
Okay,
It's for $32,580. Yes, in China.
all right, so number 7 here, description, internal budget transfer of $32,580 in Parks and Recreation, reconcile department accounts. As for attached, financial impact is 0. There's a motion to discuss. Mike Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item number 8. This is budget transfer and civil service. Description is, respectfully request the council to approve the transfer of the 2022 budget to the following accounts. The estimated financial impact is 0. Internal transfer. Motion to discuss. Mike Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? As we're going through this, Michelle, you're okay with me signing for you as per our rules? Okay, thank you. I will sign
Thanks.
for Michelle at the end of all of this. Meg. All right, and the next item, so these definitely got split apart, right? Because originally these came in on the same, yeah. All right, this one's from the police department. This will have a financial impact. This is a budget transfer for the 2022 budget. The request for a transfer from the city's contingency fund to our retirement accumulation account for the retirement payoff of Sergeant Alan Mace and Clerk Isabel Dyers. Do we have a motion to discuss?
I'll start the video.
Second. Steve Shabbat. All right, we're proud for the work that they've done. Is there any discussion here?
I just wanted to say thank you for their service.
Yes. I totally agree.
Much deserved.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Oh, wait, I didn't call the vote, did I? No. Okay. If there's no further discussion, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. My system is breaking down. Next item here is another one from the police department. Did, I see you're here. Is there anything you want to tell us?
Yeah, I apologize. Which one did you already do? I'm looking at both of them here.
Well, I don't know that we really need anything from you because one's for retirement and we're proud to process that. And the other one is an internal transfer and since it's zero financial impact, I don't know that there's much that you need to say to us, so.
Okay, in that case, thank you very much.
That's the least I've ever heard you say. Did I say that? All right, thank you, Jed.
Thank you.
All right, so this is budget transfer for the 2022 budget. Request for internal transfers within our training, equipment maintenance, minor equipment, and safety supplies accounts. Motion to discuss. Second, Steve Shabbat. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Excellent. Next, we have the assessor's office. Dan Baker is asking for a budget transfer, $100 for vehicle maintenance, for vehicle fuel. Estimated financial impact $0. Motion to discuss.
Motion.
Mike Olivieri, seconded by Steve Shabbat. And any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Barbara's on the delay, so.
I was sleepwalking and I raised my hand.
Second one is also from the assessor's office. Another transfer, budget transfer, $1,596.18 from consultants to data processing. Estimated financial impact. Motion to discuss. Mike Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Who says government isn't efficient?
Keep crossing Tony's name out, though. It's taking me.
Uh-oh. It's sitting back there. Landmarks. Sue, is that you?
It's me.
All right. Let's see. Is there anything important that you can tell us about either of these?
Well, the first, which one do you have first? There's,
This is the budget transfer, landmark planning,
for the consultant.
consulting services contract award.
That is the certified local government grant that the city received to do intensive level survey work on the archaeological and historical resources in both the Wolver and Paving neighborhoods. We've gone out on the RFP. We received 4 consulting bids. We've chosen one. It's AHRS. Their bid is slightly more than we had budgeted for, so I'm asking for an internal transfer to cover the difference so we can move that project forward.
But those two numbers equal out, right? So it's 0 financial impact.
Correct.
All right, so this one reads, authorize fiscal year 2022 budget transfer for professional consulting services contract award to AHRS Consultants for CLM project to undertake intensive level survey work in Wolver and Comptroller neighborhoods, increasing the budget line for consultants and taking money from part-time employees and planning consultants. And the financial impact is 0. Any questions for Sue? All right, motion to discuss. Steve Shabbat, second.
Second.
What's the matter with him?
I'm taking my hand down. Just waiting to second Michael's motion, that's all. And then I'll leave it up to vote.
Is this like the Flintstones?
I don't have to move.
Efficient.
All right, hearing no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. And then the next one here is budget modification for expenses in the planning department. Anything out of the ordinary here or just?
No, anticipating through year end to avoid overtime. We are currently at 88% expended, so we wanted to increase that. We're using monies out of the part-time position that is yet to be filled in the office, so taking money out of that line. So it's a 0 budget.
Great. Okay, so it reads, description, authorize the following fiscal year 2022 budget modification to cover overtime expenses within the planning department, moving $6,000 from part-time employees to overtime pay. Financial impact estimated at 0. Motion by Michael Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Sue.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
All right, you too.
Right, nice.
Ready?
Yes, Michelle.
Hi. So are we going, we're next to item number 15.
Yes.
I wanted to make a motion prior to reviewing item number 15 to bring forward under old business, the disposition policy for the surplus city-owned properties. Because it ties in with that, and so I think that we should review the disposition policy.
A little unclear.
Basically, she wants to discuss number 1. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm saying there's no actual report with this. It's a little unclear. Just about that detail. Okay. So I don't know that we need to make a motion. We can just agree to discuss the disposition policy first, if that's what folks would like to do.
Sure.
Are folks okay with that? And Martek, you are here?
Thank you.
Okay. So
Great.
now, for those who are scoring this live or on the tape, we're moving down to the first item under old business, which is the disposition policy. This was brought up last month before us. However, we received it only 2 hours before our meeting, so we did not have time to adequately consider it. And so we asked to put it off to this month. So I'm actually trying to remember, did we have a motion and a second? On that? Or were we only talking about it?
Yeah.
There was only discussion. Okay. In that case, then where we are is we can ask questions of Bartek about the disposition policy, but we cannot discuss. I just want to make that clear, okay? Discussion has to happen after if there's a motion in a second. So are there questions for Bartek about the disposition policy? Actually, I will ask one question. Bartek, you sent us some revisions
Yes.
to this. So can you review those revisions?
Yeah, there were just a few revisions that we made in the past month. The first revision was to clarify that the amount of taxes due on any particular property includes fees and taxes incurred before, during, and after foreclosure. The second edit that we made is we made it clear that the objective of this disposition policy is the production of affordable housing. So we added a specific affordable housing goal that the land bank has to comply with as part of its reporting under this disposition policy. And the last edit that was made was if the land bank for some reason is not complying with the terms of this disposition policy, we added a line that the city has the right to offer the properties to another affordable housing organization under the terms of the disposition policy.
All right, so I see that last one. That's in the very last line, page 3. Can you point us exactly where in the document the other two changes are?
Yes, the first document, the first change about the back taxes is throughout. So anytime the taxes are referenced, we just change the phrase to include before, during, and after foreclosure. And then the second change about the affordable housing target is in the general provisions at the end under letter C.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I have the latest version. All right, so given those changes and any other issues, are there questions? Pretty clear on where those changes are? Any questions about those changes or the larger document itself? Barbara.
Yeah, so this applies, this disposition policy applies to land bank business, like the priority goes to land bank, the properties, and then if that doesn't work, it goes to other housing organizations or development.
Right. So the land bank, basically, the city will offer any property with less than $30,000 in back taxes to the land bank first. We'll also offer, the property also has to be either 1 or 2 unit residential. For any property over $30,000 in back taxes, and also any property with more than 2 units, those will go to RFP. And if we don't get a qualified response in the RFP process, then it will go to auction. In the same way, if the land bank rejects any property, it will then go to RFP, request for proposals. And if we don't receive any qualified respondents, then it will go to auction.
And what's the decision-making process on this? Is it the mayor that decides? Is it you that decides? Is it council that decides? I'm sorry, maybe I should know, but I guess it's a good question.
Well, under the disposition policy, the city will decide first if it would like to retain any property for its use, right? So if there's a property that we acquire and it could be a park, right? Then we would retain it for our use. For all other ones, they would flow through this disposition policy based on the terms. So there's no decision-making happening, right? They're offered to the land bank if they meet the criteria, and then the property kind of goes from there. Ultimately, though, I think this gets to your question, the council still has to approve each and every transfer. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, regardless of whether or not this disposition policy is in place, the council still decides for each property, has to approve that it's going to the land bank, right? Or that it's going to someone that applied to an RFP. That the council still has the ultimate say in that.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking at the first whereas, then section 166, real property law, notwithstanding provisions of any general, special, or local law, subject to approval by a majority of the common council. So in essence, then, this disposition policy is more a set of guidelines. And so in essence, the council will not be giving up its power according to 1166. And we would have still the power to send properties someplace else if we thought it was essential.
Right, yes, the common council still has the final say here. I mean, I think this policy, for me as the housing director, right, is a framework by which I can take certain action, right, on properties that are abandoned and vacant, right? It's a framework by which city government can work to ensure that these properties are returned, right, to a productive use, right? In this case, the productive use that we're trying to get it properties geared towards is affordable housing via the land bank, right? But at the end of the day, the common council still has to approve each and every transfer.
Can I just add one comment, because I heard Ray's question was a little bit different.
Yeah, I can't, I'm sorry, I'm hearing it. I'm sorry.
Reddy's question sounded a little bit different to me. Your question was, can the council approve sending property somewhere else? And that's normally not how resolutions are presented to the council. They're presented, for example, if something goes to an RFP, there's a selection process. There's some awardee that's been, selected. There's a proposal that's been, chosen. And then that comes to the council for an up or down vote. And so that is what the real property law provision that you referenced, that's the kind of scenario where, the council retains its power and will continue to retain its power to do that. But your question sounded a little bit different, which was, if presented with that type of resolution, can the council say, no, I just prefer, some other organization or some other private entity or something like that? And that is different from what we're talking about.
Right, because in the past, I may not have exactly right, but I feel like we've had, I guess it's always come from the administration saying, here's where we think this property should go. So for example, we had several properties that we gave over to RUPCO for renovation, right? We did not originate that suggestion. We simply voted up or down.
That's the power that the council has always had, and the
Right.
power that the council will always have to vote to approve or to not approve a particular transfer.
Mm-hmm. But it's going to come from the administration in terms of the original idea of following this proposal or making a counter proposal or an alternative proposal on any particular piece of property.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. All right. So any other questions from Bartek? Because I think, our crucial thing is just wanting to make sure that we maintain that power to make these decisions under section 1166. Okay. Go ahead, Barbara.
So I remember looking at the revisions, but I didn't bring that copy with me. What is the affordable housing goal? How is affordable, what is, because there's differing definitions of affordable housing. So what is it for this disposition?
Right, so for the purposes of this disposition policy, I'll just read it. It's expected that at least 65% of all 1 or 2 unit residential properties that are sold by the land bank are disposed to households at or below 130% AMI.
Okay,
Okay, so yeah, it's in here.
okay.
Here's a 65%.
So is that good? Oh, no discussion. I guess that's good.
All right. Okay, any other questions? Steve Shabbat?
I'm just glad we made that very clear, that we're still going to be in the mix with this.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
All right. In that case, then, if there is no further questions, I'll ask for a motion to discuss.
Motion?
Mike Olivieri, second by Michelle Hirsch. All right, floor is open for discussion.
Is it good? What do you think? Everybody think this is good? Michelle is.
Ready?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I just want to thank Bartek for all the work that he's put into this. And I am looking forward to this helping the land bank move along and create more affordable home ownership in our city. And I'm happy to see that, we retain control of the situation for each transfer. And I will be a yes vote. Thank you.
Other discussion? Barbara?
Not at this time, but again, I would like to reiterate all the work that Bartek's done and how accessible he is whenever I've needed to discuss proposals like this. Thank you, Bartek, and I look forward to, being part of the decisions going forward.
I guess I have a question. Right now, the land bank is supposed to provide an annual report to the Common Council about its activities.
Yes.
And I think we've generally done that kind of toward the beginning of the year, February or so, March maybe it is. And here, item D, the very last one, number 3, land bank will provide Corporation Council and Comptroller with a quarterly report on the property subject to this disposition plan that required and were sold by the Kingston City Land Bank. It doesn't specifically say that the members of the Common Council would have access to those. So I'm thinking those would be public documents, yes? So that at least that the members of the Common Council could look at, or would they be, would people be required to FOIL that information? Public documents?
When you say people have to FOIL, you mean members of the council?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm asking, because it doesn't list the members of the Common Council. I'm also just wondering about people in the public at large. They may want to look at that information, and I think usually they would have to FOIL it anyway, right? If they want to see that information.
I have to think about the second part, but as to the first, I think and Bartek can fill in if I'm missing anything here. I think the goal behind that was to make sure that for the accounting purposes set forth in the policy that we would have on a more regularly than annual basis, information that would allow us to ensure that things moving forward as required. And so I wouldn't see the council as having to foil that type of documentation that comes from, that's going to the controller to my office. That's information that, at least from my perspective, I would make available to members of the council.
Okay.
But in terms of the public, I don't know if there may be, depending on what issues are included in that report, there may be some information that is not subject to FOIL. Some would have to be redacted, so I don't want to make a blanket statement.
But I understand that some information might be proprietary, as we say reform, but as long as it doesn't preclude us from seeing it, I'm fine with it.
And that redaction, I meant in terms of FOIL, not information for the council.
Oh, okay, all right, good, okay. Any other discussion? Good, so, all right. If there's no further discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? This passes unanimously. There we go. All right, thank you, Michelle, for asking us to put that before the next item. So then we are now item 15, transfer 623 to 629 Delaware. Bartek, can you tell us about this, please?
Okay, so first I have to apologize. I think Peter O'Kennedy, who is the respondent here that we're awarding this, that I'm proposing to award this to, was on the Zoom, but he was removed. So I have him on speakerphone here. I'm not sure if he can be let in, but I have him here. 623, 629 Delaware Avenue is a 4-unit property that was taken by the city several years ago. For a period of time, there were people occupying this building. It was vacant as of spring. And the wear and tear on the building from being vacant and unmaintained for several years has been really showing. I issued a request for proposals for this property back in the spring. We received 4 responses, and one of those came from POK Beacon, led by Peter O'Kennedy. He comes highly recommended by the Building Safety Department and has done several other projects here in Kingston. And so I propose that the Common Council transfer this property over to Peter O'Kennedy. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
All right, questions for Bartek or his phone? Michelle Hirsch?
Hi, Bartek. Hello again. So thank you. So, having the reason I requested that the disposition policy be discussed prior to this is obviously in keeping with the affordable housing component. And in looking, so this is property in my ward that I'm very, very familiar with. It's been very run down for a very long time. I get a lot of complaints, from neighbors with issues because the building is so run down, and it definitely needs to be completely rehabbed. I'm 1000% in agreement with that. But in looking at the response, it doesn't appear that it will be affordable housing. It's going to be market rate housing. So we've got basically 4 row houses. And so I guess this is also then a question for Barbara. In the response for proposals, it doesn't say necessarily that we're selling it for just the asking price of the back taxes, which was $145,000. Are we, as the council, able to negotiate to get more money? I mean, while they're looking to invest $600,000 in the property, it's a really, we're not getting affordable housing out of it, and we're giving the property away for like about $21 a square foot. So.
Yeah. I'll just say this is a very challenging property, and I quite aggressively promoted this RFP to the affordable housing providers here in Kingston. And some of whom looked at acquiring this property quite seriously. But because of the challenges of rehabbing this property, they chose not to reply. I believe that the city is still coming on top here. I mean, we're getting the full amount of the back taxes right back. We have a respondent, Peter Kennedy, that has done quite a bit of work in the city and is highly recommended by building safety in terms of their accolades. And we know that the quality of the fund rehab will do justice to this type of building, right? It's a very unique property within the city of Kingston. The final thing I'll say is that, I did some research into Peter Kennedy's other properties here in Kingston and the types of rents that he is charging there. And I also had initial discussions about the types of rents that he expects to charge for this property based on what he knows about the rehab. And they are quite reasonable. They are about 130% AMI. So at the upper range of what I would consider to be workforce housing. So they are not, while they are not affordable, as you correctly point out, I do think the rents here from initial discussions with Peter and also based on what he's charging in the other properties would be quite reasonable. And
Can you say what those are? Because a lot of people wouldn't understand what, what that means. So like just for the public.
Yeah, so Peter, that's around 1,700 a month, about 130% AMI.
So I think when Alderwoman Hurst said Barbara, she meant me, not Barbara Hill.
You Barbara Grace caller. Sorry. Thank you.
Although I'm always happy if Alderwoman Hill wants to take a question instead.
Especially legal.
Barbara, QC.
So, I mean, we have processes, right? And one of them is an RFP process, and that RFP gets shared with the public in the same way that we disseminate all other sorts of RFPs. And I think your question is, can we then, after a duly circulated RFP goes out and a review process gets completed, can the council just try and renegotiate the terms? And I think this kind of goes back to the earlier point. The council can vote to approve a transfer or vote against approving a transfer, but we have a process in place that's meant to provide notice to the public in an open and transparent way, and then a committee that goes through a scoring process that we need to respect.
Okay, but I'm looking at the RFP and I don't see a number, a financial number of the offer.
And so the offer from Peter is the full amount of back taxes, which is $149,292.
Okay, my apologies. I meant, I don't see the financial requirement of just it being for the back taxes in the RFP. That's all we're asking for. So it reads as if we're asking for an offer on the property. So, my concern is, while yes, I know that this property requires extensive rehab and that they're discussing, putting $600,000 into it. It's not aligning necessarily with, I think the affordable housing that we need. And in the county, 58% of the properties that have sold this past year have been for above asking price. And the property is assessed at about $500,000 or so, according to Ulster County Parcel Viewer, or that's the market rate value of it. So I just feel like we're not getting enough, either like financially or in affordability.
So Bartek, you were talking about trying to find somebody who would take the property on. And it sounded like you were saying it's very difficult to find anybody to do that.
Right, that's correct. I hosted 3 separate open houses for this property to try and attract, qualified buyers. Sent it around quite aggressively locally as well. And, the open houses were packed, right? Because this is an interesting property. But ultimately we received, only 4 qualified responses, in part because of the condition of the building.
So were the other responses for more affordable or supportive housing as in what we were looking for, or just then market rate?
They were all market rate, and also with respondents that had significantly less experience compared to Peter.
Rennie, may I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Rita.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Bartek. So when you sent out the RFP, you said you'd sent it out locally, and I'm assuming also out of county as well. When you sent the RFP out, was there language in there saying that we would like this property to go for affordable housing?
Yes, it said that, community benefit, including affordable housing, would be prioritized.
And you received no applicants that would want to do that?
I did not, and there was an affordable housing provider locally that looked at this property quite seriously, but they chose not to respond.
Do you know why? Did you think this because of the amount of money that had to go in for rehab?
Exactly.
And then not maybe getting a return investment on it?
Yeah, I think the scale of the rehab was too much for this particular provider and for others.
Right.
And it's only 4 units, right?
Correct, it's 4 units.
And there's 2 bedrooms. How many bedrooms per unit?
It is 2 bedrooms per unit, right? I'm looking at my phone, but Peter, if you want to jump in here, feel free to. But yes, the units are quite spacious, and they have 2 bedrooms, I believe.
I don't know if anyone can hear me, and I'm very sorry. Somehow I joined the meeting and then I got removed from the meeting and I can't get back in. But hopefully you can hear me through Bartek's phone. Can you?
Okay, they can hear you. You're good.
Okay. The units are, I would call them 2 bedroom plus office each. There's a little at the top of the stairway in each house. There's a small, a tiny kind of box room that I would be turning into a kind of a home office, possible home office use.
And the intention is to keep the current floor plan and not break them up into more units?
I can't hear that, I'm afraid.
So Peter, the question was whether or not you intend to change the floor plan to include more units or to keep as is with 4 units.
No, I discussed this with Bartek. I prefer the idea of keeping them as is. They could be divided into, an apartment on the ground floor, an apartment on the second floor. But I feel that they're actually very nice architecturally, and keeping them in their original layout makes more sense for the houses, and will make for really nice homes. They could be perfectly acceptable 1-bedroom apartments, but it doesn't seem like the right thing to do with those homes, and it would, conceivably would conceivably bring in more rent, but it would also cost more in rehab costs. Other thing I would like to note is that when I put in the proposal, I mentioned a figure of 600,000, which was quite ballpark. I think it's going to be more than that, especially as I'm currently working on 43 Abeale Street in Kingston, and it's been about 2 years since I've done anything, and the costs are eye-watering in comparison to 2 years ago. So it's going to be quite an expensive proposition in Delaware.
Michael?
So just to recap, we're saying a 2-bedroom apartment, market rate is $1,700 a month. That's what because you said he was going to charge market rate, which is $1,700 a month right now for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, Peter, do you want to speak briefly about your expectant rents?
I think I put in that I was going to charge about 2,300, 2,400 per unit, because they're not apartments, they're full houses, full homes.
So did you get that? I misspoke earlier.
So you're thinking of these more as townhomes than apartments.
The question from the council, Peter, was whether you're thinking about these as more than townhomes rather than apartments.
Yes, absolutely. I consider them houses, four houses in a row. I guess. Sorry, I'm from Ireland, and the terminology is. I'm still catching up. To me, they're houses. They're not. I think maybe when they're in a row like that, you call them townhouses. But I'm not sure. They're houses with each with their own back garden and first and second floor. It's a very different proposition to a 2-bedroom apartment.
And then do you, Bartek, have the square footage of each unit?
Bartek, can you repeat?
The square footage of each unit, I have it somewhere. Do you remember, Peter?
No, not offhand.
Yeah.
Hang on.
I don't see it in the material. And then I'm going to make sure too, Mr. Kennedy mentioned working on a unit on a building on Beale Street. He's also done several others in Kingston, right? So he's got specific Kingston experience. Is that correct?
That's correct. He's worked on a property on Prospect Street and on Henry Street, and he's currently working on one on a Beale Street. And Randy, if I had to guess, I would say the square footage was of each unit is about 1,500 to 2,000.
Okay, yeah.
I'd say closer to the 1,500 side, I'd say.
Yeah, around 1,500.
Yeah, that's sounding good, big. And then do you have other questions?
Yes.
Rita.
So the other properties that Mr. Kennedy has worked on, are any of those apartments, do any of them fall into the affordable housing category?
No.
Yeah, the answer is no, Rita.
Okay. Because you mentioned Henry and Prospect, did you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So this was the best RFP we got, which was the total past due amount
Yes.
of property taxes.
Yes.
This or no? Yeah. Feelings aside of whether or not this, the rent that is asking, I guess.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Okay, so are there any other questions for Bartek or Mr. O'Connell? Any other questions?
No.
Michelle? Yeah.
Yeah, so just I know this total square footage, so is each building the same square footage? Same
Pretty
size?
much, yep, more or less, yes.
Okay.
Tiny bit different. Two of them, the two exterior ones are a little bit bigger than the two interior ones, you know what I mean?
Right, they have the bay windows. And then how much of a backyard is there? There's an entry, like a back door and a little yard?
Yeah, I would say a decent backyard. I couldn't tell you square footage wise. It runs up a hill a little bit, which makes it less useful in some ways, but it's perfectly respectable.
Okay, and then what will the situation be with heating, electric? Will everybody be responsible for their own utilities? Or will that be included in the rent?
No, they'll be responsible for their own. I'm going to do, mini splits so that there's cooling and heat and all electric. There'll be no, I don't want to do gas anymore because of the environmental side of it.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you for the information.
Good.
Coming tonight.
Sorry, I couldn't get on the call properly.
That's okay, we can hear you fine. So if there's no more questions, then I'll entertain a motion to discuss. Mike Olivieri. Don't hurt yourself, Barbara.
Never seen you move so fast.
But,
I'm trying to make a point.
oh, Mike had a point earlier. Do you want to go ahead and make it, and then Barbara?
So if I'm getting this right, like, I hate the fact that $2,300 a month is considered fair market value for Kingston right now, but as members of the council, I think we just need to look at this as, you know, this was given to us as far as Bartek is concerned. You know, we asked for, in a situation in RFP, to get the back taxes. This was the highest amount that was rewarded. You know, personal feelings aside, that's what I think we're here for, is to say, you know, Bartek is telling us this was the best price that we got for this, and that's what we need to go by. If I'm not right, someone correct me if I'm wrong.
Barbara, then Steve?
Yeah, I mean, not a question, but you know, it's a weird thing to say, but we do need all levels of housing. It's unfortunate that we can't, in every decision, make it affordable. And it's heartbreaking to know that we're in this housing crisis. And we can't make every property fulfill, you know, making them more affordable. So it is challenging, but it's concrete. You researched it properly, and you know, I would vote in favor of moving this along.
Steve Shabbat?
Yeah, certainly, I agree. I think we really have no choice but to move along. Our other option is to say no to this offer, even though it's the best offer we have. I don't think we're gonna get, unless we take it off and, you know, put it out again, but, you know, we do have an offer on the table. I mean, I'm gonna vote for it because I don't see another viable option anyway. There's options, but nothing I consider viable.
Michelle, did you, okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Yes, I mean, I understand if nobody can rehab it to be, you know, affordable housing or a lower price point. I get that. But if that's the case, then I don't think that the city should be just selling it for the back taxes owed. So even though, you know, it's quite a bit an amount, nobody can buy property in the city of Kingston, especially for homes, for $150,000. So that's a steal, you know? So I'm not in favor of this proposal. So I will be a no vote at this point. Thank you.
Renee, may I say something?
Yes, please do.
Although I'm not a voting member of this committee, I do agree with Alderwoman Hirsch. You know, our plan, our land bank is designed to, you know, put out RFPs and or to sell houses to affordable prices. So, you know, if we're not doing that, I'm assuming that when those RFPs go out and we have criteria and that we would like affordable housing and we'll sell it to you for the back taxes. Okay, but if we're not going to, if it's not going to be affordable, then why are we only selling it for the back taxes? So I'm not in agreement with this either, especially with the crisis that's going on and what the land bank actually stands for. You know, we're moving away from that, I think, if we entertain this. So I'm not a voting committee member, but once it comes to full council, it's likely that I'll be a no on this. Thank you.
Is it too late for me to address the?
Yes. We can, I mean, certainly can send us, Mr. Kennedy can send us a letter with further explanation, something like that, but we're in the discussion phase right now. Okay, I'm sorry. Rita, did you have more to say?
I did not, but thank you.
Okay.
So if I'm not mistaken, we're at the RFP because of the amount of
back taxes owed. That's my interpretation from the meeting that we had last month, that it would go to the land bank if it was below a certain threshold, but if, like, because this amount's over $100,000, that is the qualifier for the RFP.
Plus it's more than 1 or 2 units.
Yeah.
Right, so
that has to, so it's not the land bank is giving it, it's just the way everything was set up due to the multiple units and the fact that how much is owed in back taxes. That's why it went right to the RFP process, correct?
Barbara, grateful.
I believe also, although Bartek will have to confirm, was this not a property where there were still people living in the building as it is very far from code?
Yes, when I became housing director in January, there were still occupants in this building. When I put this RFP out, I should mention that, you know, the disposition policy that was in the disposition policy that was in front of you tonight, you know, was not even thought of. So it was, but you're correct, Michael, that under the terms of the disposition policy, it would go to RFP if this were to go through that policy.
Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Michelle Hirsch. Okay, so it passes here 4-1. Michelle, yeah. Thank you, Bartek. And Bartek, will you extend our thanks to Mr. Kennedy for being present virtually?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we will now move on to item 16, the Wolver Avenue paving project. John Schulteis, Florida's favorite son. All right, John, what do we need to know about this?
Yeah, good evening. This is a project that the city has been undertaking as part of our grant agreement with the New York State DOT to repave Wolver Avenue. The matter before you tonight is really just an administrative step that DOT would like us to follow to so that they can give the city more money. This will reduce the reduce the city's share of the total project cost by the addition of what's called Marchicelli funds. These are state funds that can supplement the federal aid dollars that are coming before you. So, Rennie, I don't know if you received the committee report that I sent in this afternoon.
I don't. I have a hard copy. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really just an administrative step that each time a new funding source is added, in this case, additional state dollars are being added to the grant funds we already had. This reduces the city's cost of the project.
All right, are there any questions for John?
It would be the difference, it would be positive financial impact of the difference.
Okay. So that's
What is it, 56 minus 1?
109,900.
Sorry, 256. 146, 100.
Okay. Any questions for John? Sorry, I was making sure of the numbers. All right, so in effect, we're looking at an estimated financial impact of plus $146,100. And so the resolution reads, Resolution 16, authorized a total project cost of $1,400,000 with expected New York State Department of Transportation reimbursement of $1,024,000 and local share of $206,000. DOT has requested that the Common Council authorize the mayor to sign supplemental number 2 to the state local agreement. This amendment will increase the New York State Department of Transportation share to $1,290,100 by adding Marchicelli funds that were not previously authorized. The total project cost of $1,400,000 is still valid, and the local share is expected to be approximately $109,900, which is less than the $256,000 previously expected. The estimated financial impact is plus $146,100. Motion discussed by Michael Vieri. You're gonna have a sore arm
First, but and then my time is up.
All right, is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Making any money on that? Thank you, Tom. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you looking out for us to bring those funds in.
Thank you.
Take care. And then the next item, the repairs to 20 Broadway. Oh yeah, this is the right. This is the old tourist office down at the bottom of Broadway. Roof problems. Are you gonna tell us about that, John?
Yeah, I can. We had very heavy rain approximately a week ago. I think it was a week ago Tuesday, and some minor leaks at the visitor center became major leaks. And as part of this, we think the right course of action, the building has been secured. There's insurance adjustment, taking place to evaluate repairs. But we think that the right course of action for the building is to put a new roof on it entirely. The building was built sometime in the 90s, and the roof is the original roof, so a roof approaching 30 years old. And so the request tonight is to consider funding $175,000 to put new roof on the building. The amount would be offset or reduced according to insurance proceeds, which the amount of which is unknown at this time.
And how did you arrive at that $175,000 figure?
It's an estimate at this time. My office does have out for bid right now documents to roofers to bid on, with a bid opening next week, at which point we'll have real numbers and not just an estimate. But that estimate came from other roofing projects like Andretta Pool House and similar projects we've done, on a unit cost basis. This is a smaller roof, but as we all know, the costs of construction are elevated at the moment.
And there's some particulars about this roof too, right? First, it's a flat roof with some other issues, and then you've also got, you're talking about also replacing the side roofs that are, right?
Yes.
The tiles on the sides that are next to the little gable windows.
That's correct. Yeah, the upper portion of the roof that's hard to see from the ground is a membrane, flat or low slope roof. And then you have the mansards and the dormers that are more visible in a asphalt shingle style.
And then are you looking for bids from local roofers, or is there like a special kind of roofer that has to do this?
It's not very specialized work. When we do a request for bids, it goes really nationwide. Of course, it's likely that the bidders will have some local presence, but any any a qualified responder could respond, and it would be awarded on a lowest qualified, lowest responsible bidder basis.
Okay, other questions for John?
What is the visitor center operational, or is it just empty, right?
It's not operational at this time.
Is there a future planned use for it? Are we gonna sell it or move it along somewhere if we don't use it for something? I just don't understand what we're doing with that. If it's,
Well, I personally know that the mayor was looking at it to move some offices into eventually.
then we would need a new roof, or people would get wet, or, okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need a new roof, no matter.
I know, I'm kidding, but,
Yeah.
yeah, all right. Don't want more damage to happen to it, yes.
Yeah, and like,
This is a question for John Toohey. Where would is this coming from contingency until it gets?
We're asking for a bond ordinance for $175,000. The amount that we had eventually borrowed would be mitigated by any insurance reimbursement that we receive.
So, yeah, I just didn't see the bond part. Yep. Thank you.
That should be, is there a committee report?
no, I just have.
All right, here.
Yes. All right. Oh, well, so, the committee, well, yeah, well, we can get that.
We're getting there.
Only 40 more items.
We also have a whole business, rock wall update.
That's enough.
Oh,
Who's doing that?
report.
is that the roundup, that restaurant thing?
Who's doing the Rockwell update?
I am.
Oh, yeah.
The committee report was sent out today around 11:47. And then Jonathan sent it to Dee and to Jen. He sent it at 11:56.
Are we
So I
skipping
can-
ahead though?
I can forward it to you all now so that you have it in your inboxes as well.
If you would, I don't seem to see it,
Sure.
unless it's in the other thing. No, I don't see it there either.
We're almost yours, Ruth. You were almost gonna be ready to leave, but sorry, I disrupted that flow. Looking up for you. I know, I read it. Oh, well, you tend to have been looking. Oh, well. Didn't make it interesting.
This is your backup line.
Doesn't work in settings. You should look it up.
I think that is.
All right, description,
The Swedish stuff.
I'll translate.
Yeah, again, right?
Request land ordinance. Hush. All right, request a bond ordinance in the amount of $175,000 to provide funding for roof repairs, replacement, and remediate other damage caused by a recent storm at 20 Broadway. Amount to bond, 100 a month to bond will be reduced by available insurance proceeds. Estimated financial impact, $175,000. Motion discussed, Mike Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone getting punchy?
It's the three brother thing. I've had three brothers and it's just another bad one.
That's it next to you.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, then.
it's an affliction.
Thank you, John. Schulteis.
Thanks. Have a good evening.
Thanks,
You too.
John. Thanks, John.
Ruth Ann, sorry you've been here so long.
Very interesting discussion with your.
I'm glad. So. Good. So we are at,
I think yes.
Yeah, yes.
we're at these two budget transfers for the grants department. The first one is $516. Anything we need to know in particular about that?
No. People transfer from one line to the minor equipment line. Both transfers are from existing lines. The minor equipment line in order to purchase a new computer monitor for the new ARPA.
Okay. Any questions for Ruth Ann on that? Hearing no questions, the description reads, request to transfer funds from furniture, that are totaling $516.04 to minor equipment for the purchase of a computer and monitor for the new ARPA manager, and that would be Bill Reynolds, right? Yes, all right, welcome, Bill. Estimated financial impact is $0. Motion to discuss, Barbara Hill, she's so proud of herself. Excellent. Learning the, do we have a second?
Steve.
Oh, Steve Shabbat. Second. That's why he had two arms up, right?
Well, hey, I gotta be prepared.
All right, any discussion? Hearing no discussion. I'll
I just
call
had
for
one
the
more
vote.
question. I'm sorry. I just, one question. Sorry for Ruth Ann. Do we get to bill that back to the ARPA funding, that computer?
That's a good question, and that's something we'll discuss with Bill Reynolds and John Toohey and the mayor, because it's eligible. So we'll have to determine if it should be reimbursed.
Thank you.
Great. And then the second one is another $545. What's that? Oh, sorry. Definitely. So on the first grants management item, this transfer of $516, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Great. Wait. So two computers for the ARPA manager?
No, it's one computer, one monitor, but there wasn't
Oh, I
enough
see.
funding in the data processing line. But since we're moving from furniture to minor equipment, I need to move the other from data processing to minor equipment to cover the full cost of those two computers.
Okay, any questions for Ruth Ann on that? All right, the description is request to transfer funds from data processing totaling $545.42 to minor equipment for the purchase of a computer and monitor for the new ARPA manager. Estimated financial impact, $0. Do you have a motion to discuss? Michael Olivier, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Very good. All right, Ruth Ann, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate what you do over there.
Thank you. Appreciate everything you can do.
Let's keep the money coming.
Yeah.
Free money grants.
Free money.
Free money.
All right, item number 22, the budget transfer in the clerk's office. This is
This one does have financial impact.
okay.
Primarily because of the additional monies that are needed for increasing our liability insurance as well as judgment and claims filed against the city.
Is this normal in your opinion?
The judgment and claims, I mean, the liability insurance, yes. The judgment and claims, this is essentially what our insurance deductible is. And it is really a matter of just a cycle of activity. And when these claims are settled by insurance company, it fluctuates widely from year to year. We put a placeholder in the budget to provide funding for these judgment and claims, but I mean, the dollar amount swings wildly from year to year. It's just, slip and falls. It's every other claim that we file against the city. So, it is really difficult to project an accurate number. We've tried to be conservative, but then, at some points we would put money in the budget wouldn't get used. We'd bring the number down. And then, of course, when you bring the number down, the things go up. So, I mean, this is just a product of that. But, all the claims go, everything that you see that is being transferred here, the claim, everything goes through the clerk's office, the vouchers come over, I see them, the council sees them, signs off on them, so. Michael Bill.
What was the line number?
It is 1930.5401. So if you have a copy of your city budget, you can.
No, I meant how much was in there. Because you said you projected and.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you what the current budget is. Yeah, I can give you like a history of time, to get a feel for, just how it swings.
And if I can, Mike, did you handle the claims? And I will say that lately they've been settling claims from even like 18 and 19, past claims, because now it's going through the process, so.
Is it 1800 and 1900?
2018, it takes a while for
So,
wheels to roll.
so to give you an idea, from 2017 to 2019, the expense was anywhere from $248,000 to $287,000 a year. We bumped up the budgets to $200,000, and then in 2020, the number dropped to $85,000. Just the timing of when these claims settled last year were 144 or 177 year to date. So while we're higher than the last 2 years, on a rolling average, we're significantly under where we were 3 years ago. The prior 3 years, we're pushing $300,000 a year on these claims. So.
All right, any other questions for John on that? If not, then I'll call for a motion. Motion by Michael Riviere, second by Steve Shabbat. This is requesting 2022 transfer from mid-year balances in the city clerk's office as per attached. Estimated financial impact is $100,000, which will be drawn from contingency. This has a lot to do with insurance costs that we are paying. All right. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? We are unanimous as a yes on that. And our next item, budget municipal redistricting process.
Yes. So, on this way, as you saw from Andrea's email from earlier today, the city has to engage in municipal redistricting. I think we've all had a lot of we've all been reading a lot of news about all the chaos of municiping at the state level, redistricting at the state level, but we also have to review and potentially revise our ward boundary lines. It's not, I think, before I say what it's not, I'll say what it is. It's a process that has to be based not just on the census numbers, but also sensitive to some recent legislative changes to protect voting rights and disenfranchisement of minority voting communities and some other concerns that make it a bit more of a sensitive process than I think maybe it was considered in past iterations. And so as part of it, so that has to be done in time for the next round of primaries. So when you think that this has to be passed by local law, you've got to build in the time, not just to review the process, make sure that we get the right kinds of data to make sound boundary drawing decisions, and then review the legislation, read it twice, and then have it in place. It doesn't leave us a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, we're talking like April? Next round of primaries for local elections?
The next round of municipal. So I don't have the 2023 calendar in front of me. I don't think we have an exact date yet. But even so, knowing that it's going to take a while to go through the analysis and then building in the time for the local law to pass, that's a process that seems ripe to get underway now. Yeah.
So what, is there something, it has to be synced up with the redistricting that happened for the county legislative districts? Because that's, and that, what I was told by legislator Uchitel was that we had to have this figured out by, I don't know, it wasn't really April, it was like it was like February, in order to get things on the back. I don't know, there was some really
So I don't
intense
know.
timeline.
I'm not going to speak for the county or the syncing up. What I can say is that our boundary review process is something that we would like to get underway in the next month.
Yes.
And the first step is for, so to do that, I've connected with Jeff Weiss and his partner at the Benjamin Center at SUNY Health, who are working with a number of municipalities, not only to review the data, but to make sure that the kinds of recommendations that they provide are data-driven and sensitive to some of the litigation and litigation risks and legislative changes that we should be thinking about as we draw lines carefully. And so step one of that process is tonight to come and ask for the funds to work with the redistricting experts. Step two is to have, at least on the attorney side, because I think the gentleman at SUNY Health, I believe, is a statistician who does, is not a lawyer, I don't believe. But to have the lawyer provide the overview training for the council, and then the line drawing review, data analysis, and then reporting on the recommended boundary lines, give us that information so that we can, my office then would work on the actual drafting of the local law with the council. So that's what this item is.
Other questions? Steve Shabbat?
Yeah, do you have a timeline on moving forward with this?
So aside from tonight, the first
Just
step.
generally,
Right, would be the 1 hour training for the council before caucus on October 3rd. And then my office would then work with, the outside folks to give them whatever data they need to start analyzing our maps. And then there would be some presentation to, my hesitation is I was going to say the Laws and Rules Committee, but actually it's an issue for Andrea to decide whether or not there's an ad hoc committee for redistricting purposes. That's really not my decision to make, but whatever the responsible committee would be, there'd be some report back and a sharing of the data and probably some discussion of any potential concerns around issues that arose in the data analysis, and then my office would prepare whatever the local law would with you all to do that.
might not be relevant to this, but when was the last time we did a redistricting?
Every 10 years.
It is every time, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you look at, so Professor Weiss, who's the lawyer who will do the training, he is, I guess, the co-founder or founder of the New York, the Redistricting Institute of New York Law School. If you look on the website, they've gone through all of the New York state municipalities, or all of municipal charters to see what instructions there are, what requirements there are for redistricting. Our charter actually doesn't say very much. It just gives us the sort of time frame, which, you know, sometimes that means you have more latitude or less, but whatever it is, it means that our guidance is less complete than some other municipalities may have. But I'm happy to circulate some general municipal redistricting information in advance of his training. I'm sure you'll be able to provide some more information for the council when he does the training.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I didn't see communications this afternoon, but is there something that, was this laid out anywhere or only verbally what you just told us now?
Communications from Andrea.
Yeah.
She sent an email, I don't remember the time.
Today, but I wasn't able to see
Yeah.
it. So what I'm wondering is, I'm not absorbing a lot at this time of the evening, so is this written? So
Yeah, there's a letter.
Oh, I see.
from
Okay.
Barbara.
All right. Yeah, it was, okay, out in nature. All right. That's helpful.
But there's also in your communications a letter from me that has a little bit more detail.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Great, any other questions? Hearing none, motion to discuss, Michael Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote, all in favor? Anyone opposed? I'm gonna read it, yeah, thank you. The committee approved, the report reads, the committee approved the transfer of $4,500 from the general fund to the Office Corporation Council to hire a consultant to perform property survey, thereby helping the city to assess potential risk and liability.
No, that's not.
No, that's not correct. Use other.
I drafted one case of stated.
Is that the one you just sent?
No, I just sent the one about the raffle.
Yeah.
Good, have one with my letter.
No.
Okay.
I have one here. I'm gonna read it today.
That would be great.
Okay. What I wrote up is approve the following 2022 budgetary transfer to provide funding to engage consultants to assist the city with municipal redistricting requirements. Increase corp council consultants by $6,000 and decrease contingency by $6,000. Financial impact would be $6,000. That would provide you the max amount that.
I mean, I think that gets the job done. Ultimately, it is the council's responsibility to do the redistricting under our charter, so.
Okay. I can put it to anyone.
Okay.
Should we put under the town council consultant?
So for those of you who are new on the council, this is just practice for the budgeting process. We'd be eating our first meal of the evening right now for the budgeting process.
Don't scare anybody.
I hope I, don't get assigned to this committee.
Gonna be sick that day?
I'm not gonna say that.
It's many days.
I'm just a visitor.
Well, it's part of the chair's duty to bring pizza.
Well,
Those meetings,
I was gonna
right?
bring carrots.
You know I'm resigning right before that.
I thought, wasn't this the hazing? He's gonna have.
That would be town council.
It's the hazing.
Okay. I'm not, okay. The committee report reads, approve the following 2022 budgetary transfer to provide funding to engage consultants to assist the city with municipal redistricting requirements. Increase A11001Y.5411, $6,000. Decrease A1199001Y, or 0.5404 by $6,000. So the estimated financial impact is $6,000. We have a motion to discuss, Michael Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Is there any discussion?
I think wherever you heard why, it was a 4.
Yeah, sorry, wherever I said why, it's a 4. Between John and me, this is falling to pieces. All right, any discussion then? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Great, and then, there we go. The next item, budget transfer for Comptroller's office.
This financial, there's no financial impact of this transfer, it's just moving monies between lines. Trying to do a mid-year cleanup.
All right, so any questions for John? The report reads, request the attached 2022 mid-year budgetary transfer totaling $46,250 to balance the Comptroller's office account on a year-to-date basis. Financial impact estimated to be 0. We have a motion to discuss. Second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Anyone opposed? No. That passes unanimously. Great. And then request to replenish contingency from the Comptroller.
So this request is, we do this from time to time. I mentioned to you some of the stresses that we're having with the expenses right now. So what this would do is would put $200,000 back in the contingency balance. I see we're going to spend on our retirement costs, and tonight we approved $141,500 and come out of contingency. This is a 200 back.
Any questions for John?
Where is it coming from? Retirement system, employee benefit account. Yeah, I mean, it's just a bill cost. I'll tell you that based on market performance, the retirement system cost will go up next year. It's a March cutoff, so the stock market was doing a great March, so. So that'll be a budgetary hit next year, but this year, we will see a positive budgetary variance with retirement system costs. Okay. And I mean, just to say one other thing, what you're gonna see based on, what I was telling you earlier tonight is revenues are strong. At the same time, the expenses, we're gonna have stresses there, so it's gonna be on both sides of it.
All right, any other questions? All right, motion to discuss, Michael Olivieri, second by Steve Shabbat. Any discussion?
Hey, you didn't even see my hand up yet.
Yes.
I saw it yesterday. I saw it yesterday.
Your battlefield was in motion.
I don't say that.
Your sleep came crazy.
Watching a Yankee game like this.
All right, hearing the wrong discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. I don't have any more paper clips. Then the last item is, thank you. The last item has to do with our friend, the rock wall.
Sounds like it's from the Hobbit. So,
Don't give me a story.
I know we're at the end of the night, and when the mayor came back in June, I believe, we ended up discussing this in attorney-client session. I don't think we need to go into session to discuss the specific request. The issues that the mayor talked about at that time are still issues, and actually the situation has in certain ways raises some further concerns. And so to figure out how best to proceed and what, if anything, the city may need to do or what someone else needs to do, I'm here to ask for funding for a consultant to perform a property survey. And I think if there are any kind of more detailed questions about some of the risks, then we would probably have to discuss it in session. But here, this is just the purpose of assessing conditions and boundaries.
Okay, are you allowed to say where this rock wall is? Because I don't know if that's somewhere down, near the roundabout or somewhere else.
So I believe I don't want to misstate the address. So it's on all the materials from June. And if you want to put off the vote until I can give you that information, I understand that. But it's the same address and property area that was presented in June. In June, the request was for, I believe, up to $250,000 to actually do the repair work, but the question now is simply for the funding to get a surveyor out there, get our eyes on the conditions, but most importantly, the line for property boundary assessment purposes.
And that's the 4,500.
It may be less, but, you know, we can't overspend, so that's the estimate that we have right now.
Any other questions? Any other questions then? Motion to discuss. I hope it's Michael Olivieri. No, I already put a memo down. And I hope the second is by Steve Chavez because he's already down also. Sorry. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Are you opposed, Michelle? This was.
I'm sorry.
Opposed.
No. All right, good. So the vote on that is 4-1. Michelle Hirsch is the no vote. All right. Anything else anybody wants to discuss? If not, then
I'll second that.
I'll assume that we have adjourned the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for sticking it out.
Abandoned might be more.
All right, good night, all.
Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
There you go, dear. Thanks for being here. Always a pleasure.
This will be it. Ready?
Are we still?
How long?
Yeah.
People.
No, I'll go for recall.
Yeah.